Chelsea fam, it's day 2 of the transfer window. What is going on? No transfers in yet. Bowley out. Let's go. For those of you that have tuned in to the first part of this 3-part installment of Chelsea transfers this summer, thank you very much. We did the defenders yesterday. Today, we are going to focus on the midfield and discuss the players that Chelsea have been linked to in the transfer window and who I think that we should be looking at when we're talking about who fits the bill as a Chelsea central midfielder. But without further ado, let's get into it.
And blue is the colour. Essien! Drogba! Lampard! That could be the
Greetings! Welcome back to Couch Critic with me, Dennis P, for what is a special edition of Couch Critic where we look at the transfer window. This is part 2 of 3. Yesterday we did the defenders, all the defenders that we've been linked with at Chelsea through the media and otherwise. We're going to be focusing today on the midfielders. We're going to be looking at the guys that we've been linked with in the media, the guys that Chelsea are targeting, and basically in comparing and contrasting some of the statistical data that is available on these guys, whether or not they're a good fit in the Thomas Tuchel system. But before I get any further, I want to let you guys know about my sponsor. They go by the name of Major League Socks. And fellas, I say this every week, if you ever want to walk in the footsteps of greatness, you know what to do. Just hit them up. The link will be in the description. Okay, and thank you once again for tuning in for part 2 of 3 installments of the transfer window with Couch Critic, where we look at the transfer window and figure out exactly who Chelsea are targeting and whether or not these are exact fits. Like I said before, part of the problem with Chelsea going forward, whenever we're in the transfer window, we're usually looking for players that basically suit the corporate brand, you know, the sponsors, the corporate sponsors and whatnot. We're not necessarily focused heavily, or at least we haven't been in the past, on finding players that suit the football that is on display at the club right now. So, you know, hopefully with the new ownership coming in Bowley and Clear Lake, that is a bit of a regime change, and, you know, hopefully they'll be looking more so at players that actually suit Thomas Tuchel's football. We have heard in the media, Matt Law came out saying that like Thomas Tuchel will be in charge of the transfer window this summer, which means that he will be able to dictate who he wants to come in. It's going to be left up to the directors and whatnot to bring those players in, get them under contract, finish the deals. But the players that are being identified on current are the ones that Thomas Tuchel wants. So with that said, we're going to be looking at the midfield today, and we're going to be basically looking at the statistical data to support whether or not the players that we've been linked with actually fit the style of football that Tuchel wants to play. And of course, before we get too much further into that, we have to basically identify the type of football that our midfielders are playing. Currently, we play with a double 6 in that 3-4-3. And we have Jorginho as basically our regista. A lot of people call him the defensive midfielder, and he does put up decent stats in that regard, but I don't think that Jorginho is put in there to defend. I think he's put in the midfield to control the tempo of the game, be the tempo setter, the guy that sets the plate for the attackers and whatnot. And, you know, he's had a rough year. He didn't have the greatest year this year. Obviously, you know, with the COVID and the injuries and whatnot, he played a lot of football through the months of November and December, and it took its toll on him getting into the latter stages of the Christmas period and then into the new year. And, you know, it's taken its toll on him. Yeah, so he was very, very tired, very, very fatigued, very, very jaded, obviously coming off of a European Cup win with Chelsea and then a Euros win with Italy. I mean, he played a lot of football last year as well and came into the season with less than not much of a preseason, and was thrust right back into the hot seat. And, you know, he just looked jaded for most of the season. A lot of the season, he just looked like he was did not have the energy, the stamina, or, you know, his mind wasn't really, you know, adjusting to the pace of the game as we normally usually see him do. Like, Jorginho's the guy that usually controls the tempo, and for whatever reason this year, I feel like on more than a few occasions he was, you know, caught thinking slowly, which is not really one of his characteristics. And as a result of Jorginho not really being like in his best mind frame, we were caught out more than a few times, and, you know, a couple gaffes that led to goals. But in a more traditional sense, in a more general sense, we do need somebody in that number 6 role that can handle a lot of possession, can move the ball quickly, can pick passes, is very good, very composed in the passes, can pick passes, doesn't really give it away very often, and is a guy that can set tempo. And, obviously Jorginho didn't have the greatest year, but those are the characteristics that are sought after when we put him into the game. If he can't deliver that, we're really struggling to find the pace and tempo of the game. And, we're struggling to build attacks, to be honest with you. And a lot of that happened last year. And mainly down to the fact that I feel like Jorginho was just really jaded and was unable to, mentally, recuperate and get himself back to even 80, 90, 100%. If we were looking for another number 6, it would be somebody that has those characteristics first. Obviously, we do play with a double 6, so the other 6 is the water carrier, the box to box or the ball winner, and that's usually N'Golo Kante or Mateo Kovacic, depending on what style of football you want. Obviously, with Mateo Kovacic, you get somebody that just carries the ball, is very good in possession, recycles it well. Doesn't really offer a lot of defensive acumen, doesn't really win the ball enough for my liking, but in terms of advancing the ball into the final third, using it correctly, ticking it over, taking on players and beating them, he's probably the best midfielder Chelsea have right now. With N'Golo Kante at his best, he is world class. He's Chelsea's best player when he's at his best. Fortunately, last year we didn't see that enough, and he struggled with injuries throughout the entire campaign. And he's looking like he's you can never really count out N'Golo Kante, because one day he looks like he's not with it, he's not at it, and then the next day he looks back to his world-class form. Just think for him it's about like rotation and not overusing him in situations where he's playing multiple games time and time again, because he's showing that he's not really able to do that anymore. So obviously at his best, he's a ball winner, a guy that can get into the final third, picks good passes when he's there, doesn't really make bad decisions when he's in the final third, doesn't really make a lot of decisions there, but when he does, they usually are the right ones, and very, very efficient on the ball when he's moving it forward at his best, of course. With that said, I do want to quickly touch on some of the names that Chelsea missed out on in the transfer window, who I feel like were just the ideal fit for that midfield. I'm speaking specifically of CHOUAMENI, who played at Monaco last year and was incredible. Of course, Chelsea were linked with him heavily last year in the summer. Obviously, Fabregas did some recon for us, and he let the board know that this is the guy that we need in the midfield. Diamond in the rough, an all-rounder, a guy can do everything in that midfield. The ideal number 6, as far as I'm concerned, when you talk about what you want from a number 6, this is what you want: somebody that can defend, somebody that can pass, somebody that can score, somebody that can intercept. All of the things that you want from a number 6 is what CHOUAMENI possessed, and I think that that's basically what Chelsea needed to go after. And unfortunately, he chose to stay, or we chose not to go in for him. We went for Niguez, and the rest is history. He's off to Real Madrid. The next name that comes to mind, obviously not as dynamic as somebody like CHOUAMENI, was Boubacar Kamara, who left and went to Villa. I'm so shocked that they were able to get his signature on a free as well. But apparently Chelsea weren't really in for him. And wow, like the things that this guy can do on the pitch as a defender and a midfielder, you feel like he can offer a lot of things that Chelsea need in that midfield right now. So we're looking now at guys like, obviously Declan Rice is the big name that is being, linked with Chelsea for last couple seasons, maybe even before that with Frank Lampard as well. And I'm of the belief that Declan Rice is again a specialty midfielder. He's not a guy that's an all-rounder. He's a guy that plays a specific role in that midfield as a number 6. And many people will tell you that it's specifically what we need in that midfield. Somebody that to sit in front of that defense, break up play, is a good dribbler, gets forward and whatnot. But for the most part, I think that he's actually a pretty decent passer too. He's got good passing range, can pick a pass as well, and all those things are things that we can use in the midfield. The things that I'm worried about when I think about Declan Rice is usage. Can he be the guy that when you're giving him the ball, can he recycle it and use it, get like multiple, I'm talking about like 80, 90 touches a game, and use the ball correctly, and pick passes, and have the stamina and like the mental stamina to stay involved in the game at all times, to go seek the ball, find himself in these little pockets of spaces where he's open to receive passes and whatnot. He doesn't strike me as that type of a midfielder. He strikes me as a guy that just sits in the middle, can break things up, and uses his power, pace and power, or his power to get into areas where he's dribbling past guys and basically running like a bull in a china shop when he's going down towards the final third. I think in particular what Chelsea need is somebody that is a little bit more of an all-rounder, somebody that can be a 6, 8, 10 type of player in that number 6 role, where you're sitting back and like basically dictating the play and whatnot. And for me, I don't know if Declan Rice possesses that quality. I don't know if he's the kind of guy that if we're in press sequences, can he press the ball effectively and win the ball when we're pressing? He doesn't really strike me as a guy that uses his energy and stamina to be a ball winner back there. I think he's great in the tackle, at last ditch tackles. He's great when he's like dribbling at people. He's great when he's running at you. He's great when he's angling balls, and whatnot. But the things that I want to see him excel in are, especially in this Chelsea system, is being the guy that can just be the metrum, the fulcrum of the attack. And say what you want, Chelsea may need to revolutionize how they use that position, but on current form, we do require somebody in that number 6 role who's very comfortable on the ball and able to move it into the areas where our players who are more gifted and talented on the ball can use it effectively. And right now, I just don't know if Declan Rice strikes me as a guy that's just going to be like shifting about, getting into these spaces and dictating the play for us. And for me, like, it's weird because like a lot of like Chelsea supporters are divided on this. Like they look at him and say, well, he's exactly what we need because he's exactly what Jorginho isn't. And that's one argument for it. But like, I guess the way I look at it is like, for the price tag, bringing in another specialty, defensive midfielder is not necessarily, that's not desirable for me. Like if we're talking about somewhere in around the 50, 60 million pound range, you can probably talk me into, changing the makeup of our midfield and, making it more robust, ball winners. And, it's just a price tag. Like right now we're talking about Declan Rice for upwards of 75 million pound and up, and add-ons. And like, for a guy that basically just is a dribbler and basically a number 8 and a number 6's body, who can get past, dribbles, pace, uses his power to get forward, bull in a china shop in a lot of ways. I don't know if you pay that sort of money for that particular position, especially when you have Kovacic, you have N'Golo Kante. Of course, both of those guys are advancing in age, but with that said, I don't know if this is the time where we go into the window and buy somebody of that sort. I think he's got a lot of talent. I think that he has a lot of things on offer, but whether or not those things can help Chelsea achieve the next stage in their evolution, I'm not quite sure. There's many people that think that Chelsea need to shift their whole philosophy, go from 3 at the back and play it 4 at the back, and then use, Declan Rice as the anchor in that midfield. And, maybe that might be something to look at right now. But what I'm looking at is what Chelsea currently play and what are the characteristics of the midfield on current display. And, I just don't see a role for Declan Rice outside of being, a holding 6, somebody that can just break up play and, bomb forward every now and then. But not somebody that I want to see in possession using the ball. And, I don't think that he's very good. He has the mental stamina to use the ball, 80, 90 times a game. Now, oddly enough, there is an Englishman that I actually think is a better fit for Chelsea in that number 6 role. And when I'm saying that number 6 role, it's basically a number 6 that can do the things of a number 8, pick passes, dictate tempo, and, basically, use his ability to get into these incredible spaces to, break lines and play in attackers. Anyways, I really do feel like there is a player, an English player that does possess exactly what I feel like Chelsea need in that number 6 role. And that is Dortmund's Jude Bellingham. Yes, he is only 18, 19 years old, but He is mature well beyond his years, well beyond his years. He uses the ball extremely well, sees passes, advances the ball extremely well. When he gets in the box, he can be clinical there, composed on the ball. All of these things he can do. Like, and again, one of those diamonds in the rough, very similar to CHOUAMENI in that respect, where he plays in a multitude of roles for Dortmund, and he doesn't play a foot wrong whenever he plays there. Granted, we can say that, like I said yesterday, with the Bundesliga, you have to be cognizant and wary of the fact there's a trepidation that comes with the fact that that league is not necessarily one that is pressed relentlessly. You're not put under an immense amount of pressure when you play in the Bundesliga. But when I watch Jude Bellingham play, I feel like he has the ability, the technique, and the composure to withstand any sort of like pressure. Like, I feel like he's got the technique, he's got great feet, and again, he moves the ball real quickly. He's a guy that doesn't dwell on the ball and doesn't those split seconds where you need to be alert and move the ball. He's got that ability about him. And man, if Chelsea want to spend like 70-80 million pound on a midfielder, with that English tax and whatnot, he's the guy I would spend it on, because you see in his game that he has the ability to think the game as a number 8, play it as a number 6, and then when he gets into the final third, be decisive as a number 10. So I think that if we're thinking about where we want this midfield to be shaped and whatnot, I would rather it be shaped around a player of that sort rather than have a specialty player where we're paying 80-90 million pounds for, and really all he can do is just sit in front of the defense. He'll get forward every now and then, pick passes and whatnot, but I really think that this revolution that we're looking for in the midfield has to occur with somebody that is more of an all-rounder, somebody that can score goals, pick passes, be composed on the ball, be a tempo setter, win tackles. All of these things is what I think you need in this new role, especially if you're going to be paying overs for it. And for me right now, that's Jude Bellingham. Obviously, we haven't really been linked with him, and I'm throwing him out there as just an alternative to the names that we have been hearing. Obviously, Declan Rice, Boubacar Kamara, and CHOUAMENI. I think that of the ones that we've mentioned so far, I think that CHOUAMENI is closer to Jude Bellingham than Declan Rice is, and I like that sort of midfielder. I think that sort of midfielder is what we need in order to take our midfield forward, and allows for the other players that are in and around the midfield to continue doing their role, and allows them to flourish as well. I know people think that, when we have Declan Rice sitting in front of our defense, it'll allow, Kovacic to be Kovacic and, Kante and Mount to be Mount, but what exactly does that amount to? Like, are we scoring more goals that way? Are we creating more goal scoring opportunities that way with these players, now being liberated in the number 8 roles? I'm not sure. I mean, that has yet to be seen. I know there's a belief that Conor Gallagher can potentially be that guy in that number 8 role who can do more of the things that we need our number 8, number 10s to do: score goals, create goals, be a nuisance in the pressing and whatnot. Maybe that is the case, but on current form and what I see right now in our midfield, if we stay with the 3-4-3, I really do believe that we need somebody that's a little bit more of an all-rounder, and I really do believe that name is Jude Bellingham for me. Now, the last name we're going to be looking at today is a name that kind of has a little bit of red flags, just because he does have an ongoing court case that has not yet been resolved. It's obviously Yves Bissouma from Brighton, and I like him as a player. I think he's very, very talented. I think that what we need from that midfield, he provides as a number 6 in the same way that we would get from N'Golo Kante. So he's basically the heir apparent to N'Golo Kante, and not such, not so like-minded as, say, a Jorginho or somebody that would, use the ball a lot. And I think that people that like Yves Bissouma are the same people that like Declan Rice in that role. They're looking at the midfield as being something that needs to be completely revolutionized. And, a guy like Yves Bissouma, if he can get, the off-court stuff settled and put away, is a guy that I think when you look at, pressures and, and being that guy that can just be a real enforcer in the midfield, which is what a lot of people think Chelsea need, is just somebody that can just be an enforcer in there, because we're just very much paper thin in the midfield. He can be that guy. I mean, can you have him, and Kovacic in the midfield and have that be a functional, midfield too? I don't know. I think that you could definitely look at that as being something that is something different to what we have on offer right now, and maybe that might be better just in terms of being more solid in the middle and less easy to play through. But again, Chelsea's a team that are in possession of the football 65, 70% every game. And, can we afford to have somebody in the midfield, in the engine room, who can't command, to handle, 75, 80 touches a game? We've never really seen Bissouma used in that way before. As much as he has attributes that I absolutely like, his dribbling ability is great, his power, his ability to press effectively. Like that entire Brighton team, by the way, is absolutely exceptional in press sequences. And reason why they were so difficult to play against last year was because of that reason. They were so good in press sequences, and Bissouma is a big part of that. But when you think about the other things that we need to be a possession-based team, does he possess that? Like obviously, he's very good in possession. He can pick passes and whatnot. Not bad, with the long distribution as well. But again, when you're thinking about keeping things ticking over and recycling possession and the mindset that is required to do that at a high level, in big matches, is Yves Bissouma that guy? I don't know. I haven't seen it. Like obviously Brighton do play a style of football that is appealing to Chelsea supporters because they do like to be on the front foot. They do like to press and win the ball and whatnot. And they do like to keep possession. These are all things that I think are important when you're analyzing, what types of players you want to bring into the club. But again, the role that certain players are playing in the ability to play that sort of football is also very important. I'm not sure that Bissouma can fulfill the same sort of roles that we need at the club currently. Like the one that we absolutely need is an all-rounder in that number 6 position, as I mentioned before. Somebody that can replace Jorginho, but not lose some of the attributes that Jorginho possesses currently. You need somebody that is very good in the tackle, which Bissouma is. You need somebody that is very good at picking passes. He's not bad at that. We need somebody that's very good in press sequences. He's excellent at that. And we also need somebody that can get in the final third and, and dictate tempo. And I'm not quite sure that he can do that. So, I mean, if the price is right, first of all, if the court case resolves in his favor and he's, is in the clear, he's definitely a name that I can't take out of my mind, because I really do think that a lot of the things that he does possess are things that Chelsea can use in their midfield. But, I mean, I don't think that he's in the ideal fit. So it would have to be about what is the price, what is the ask, what is the transfer fee, and then what is he asking for in terms of like wages and whatnot. Because, like I said, we need to be targeting players that I think are, diamonds in the rough, all-arounders that can do everything in that midfield. We have enough of guys that can just be the box-to-box presence. We have enough guys that can be ball winners. I mean, we have N'Golo Kante. We have the best in the world at that. And, we have a guy in Jorginho who is basically, your pace setter, your pace setter, and the guy that tries to get you to play football. So I think if we can find a way to get a midfielder that is all of the above, I think we'll be set. We're ready to go. We'll be ready to play football. Until we find that guy, I still think that we're going to be struggling to find the right fit. But I do think I'm going to wrap it up there. That's the second of 3. Tomorrow I will be looking at releasing the strikers, and we're going to be looking at the strike. This is the exciting part. Let's be honest. All of us want to hear about goals. All of us want to be hearing about like the players that excite us on the pitch, that get in the final third and make the difference there. So we're going to be taking a deep dive look into that and seeing what names we can come up with that Chelsea have been linked to. But again, we had the midfielders today, and not a lot on offer, because I really don't think that Chelsea are going to be really addressing that midfield this year. There's just not a lot of players that fit the skill set and the mold of what we need in midfielders right now. So I really do think that we're going to have to run it back with the likes of Jorginho, Kante, Kovacic, Ruben Loftus-Cheek. You got Conor Gallagher coming in to fill for Saul Niguez as a bit of an all-rounder in the midfield. Of course, Mason Mount may get some looks there as well, but I really think the only way we're going to be able to address revolutionizing that midfield is bringing somebody like I said before, a Jude Bellingham of some sorts. I really think that he's the type of player that we need in that midfield. Declan Rice is obviously a great candidate, but if the price is too high, I don't think that Chelsea want to engage in bringing in another midfielder who basically has a specialty role in the side. I think we need somebody that's a little bit more versatile and a guy that can do more in possession. But what do you guys think? Let me know what you guys think in the comments, because I think this is a hot button topic for Chelsea. There's the anti-Jorginho side and then the pro Declan Rice side, and you know, what is the actual fit for Chelsea? I do know for a fact that Jorginho plays a lot for Thomas Tuchel, not because he's a fantastic tackler and because he breaks up play incredibly well and because, you know, he's a real robust defender. It's because he's good in possession, and I think that that's what Chelsea's midfield calls for when you're playing under Thomas Tuchel. You know, you look at even this time at Dortmund, that Weigl guy, Julian Weigl, same thing. You look at Verratti, same thing. You know, all of these guys are very good in possession, and you know, I think that that's basically what he's going to be. You know, what he wants in his midfielders first. He wants you to be able to keep the ball, recycle it, and move it effectively and quickly, efficiently. And you know, I don't know if the names that are on offer right now can provide us with that sort of, you know, that sort of adaptation to football. You know, so. You know, only time will tell, but as I said, I'm not opposed to any of the names that we've been linked to. I just think that the ask has to be right, and, you know, we have to find the right fit. But you guys know what to do. Until then, I'm going to do the strikers tomorrow, keep the blue flag flying high, and up the Chelsea. Peace.